Eu vou detonar!
Hora de fechar, acabou o jogo, todos pra fora.
A ultramoderna indústria de games, com gráficos cada vez mais potentes, deixou para trás os antigos jogos de fliperama. Basta lembrar dos sucessos do passado, como as aventuras na floresta de Pitfall, as temíveis criaturas alienígenas de Space Invaders, e os intermináveis barris digitais arremessados por Donkey Kong. Todos esses jogos só se tornaram possíveis depois que Nolan Bushnell resolveu seguir seu sonho e fundar praticamente sozinho o que hoje conhecemos como a indústria dos games.
No other video game company stacks up to Atari.
O fundador da Atari esteve no Brasil e conversou com o Globo News Ciência e Tecnologia sobre os tempos de fama mundial, os anos difíceis da Atari, e diz que ele criou o modelo descontraído de trabalho que o Google usa hoje. Mas tudo começou com a história de um garoto que, para ganhar uns trocados durante as férias escolares, decidiu trabalhar num parque de diversões.
Well, the real trick was I worked at an amusement park in college, and it was in Utah, and so the amusement park was closed in the winter, where I pursued an engineering degree, and then school let out, and I'd work at the amusement park all summer, and then school was starting again. So I was in the game business in the amusement park. I ran the arcades, all the games, and in college, at the time, there were games being played on the big mainframe computers, $1 million computers. And the computers you'd never shut the computers off because the boot up cycle and everything was really hard. And so if you could sneak into the computer lab at 2 o'clock in the morning, you could play games all night on these big $1 million machines, which I did. And fell in love with video games that were programmed on these big computers, and thought to myself, if I can build a game cheaply enough to do this in the arcade, it will be a business.
There is this story that someone told me that there was a machine that with the Pong that they put in a pub, and they played it. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. Our first machine that we did our test, we put it out and in 3 days, the machine quit working. We thought, oh, it's not reliable, da-da-da. It had taken so much money that the cash box had filled up and could not take any more money. That's the kind of problem we can fix.
Mas o jogo que deu origem a tudo foi o clássico Pong. 2 pequenas barras e uma bolinha quadrada transportavam o jogador para dentro das quadras. Até hoje permanece na galeria dos games mais famosos da história. Bushnell teve muitos acertos na sua carreira, mas um simples erro pode ter mudado toda a história da indústria de tecnologia. Ele chegou a ser o chefe de um dos maiores nomes do nosso tempo.
Steve Jobs worked for me, and did Breakout for me, and we became good friends. And I had a chance to own 1/3 of Apple Computer if I had invested in his company for $50,000.
So you didn't have the feeling.
Oh, I had $50,000 at the time. I was, Atari was successful. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. I should have.
Why did he get out? Why did he get out? Went away to other business. He worked for you.
Yeah, he worked for me, and then he and Wozniak decided they wanted to do a personal computer.
Okay.
And we were going to do one later, which was kind of one of the reasons why I didn't feel like I could invest. I thought it would be a conflict. But at the same time, I helped him. The very first Apples were all made with Atari parts. That's why the Apple was made with the microprocessor 6502.
You were the first boss of Steve Jobs and probably the only one he had. How was he?
I felt that he had the drive and the intensity and the intelligence. And enthusiasm is so important in all of these businesses. And I knew he had that. What I didn't feel like, he was not very civilized. That's probably, but he was very young. He's 19 years old, 20 years old. And so I think that I had not understood his ability to civilize himself, to become a businessman in full rights. He had all the other characteristics.
So let's come back to Atari. How did you choose the name? I mean, what was the inspiration?
Atari.
It actually came from a Japanese board game. The black and white stones called Go.
Yep.
And it's a polite warning to your opponent that he's about to lose a group of men. So if I challenge you with a move, I say, Atari. I'm going to take you. Next move. Wake up. Be careful. And I thought that was a good name for a company.
A strong name.
Very strong. In fact, the Japanese say, very good name, but perhaps too boastful for Japanese.
And the Japanese were the ones who really embraced the new brand, right? Your product.
Yeah. Very much.
It succeeded very much in the States. I mean, all over the world, I guess.
Right.
But it's special in Japan, right?
Yes. Well, see, I believe that every country has games, just like they have their culture and their history. They have their games they need to present to the world. Brazil hasn't done that yet. I'm sure that there is a game story in Brazil that the world will love.
Nolan Bushnell foi responsável por criar toda uma geração de gamers. Jovens que cresceram e depois se tornaram adultos, eles ainda continuam jogando nos modernos consoles como Xbox e PlayStation. Mas sem perder o carinho pelo antigo Atari, que cativou milhões de crianças. Qual será a explicação desse sucesso?
It turns out that gameplay is not about look. It's about the interaction of the objects and the timing and that kind of fun. Games very often are better when they're the ultimate simplicity. Great chess players never play chess with anything other than the black and white wood pieces that were the same for 200 years. Certain games are like that. They're elegant in their simplicity. And, you can't make the game any better by putting doodads and big graphics and that. In fact, a lot of times you make the game worse. Now, other games like Halo or Portal, all the richness of the graphics is really fun. But Pong, it doesn't help the game if you give it color and all that other stuff. It's good enough as it is.
How do you see the evolution of video games since you created the first games?
Oh, I think it's great. The things that I'm excited about are some of the things that are coming.
Oh.
The next wave of video games. So, like I always say, the best video game hasn't been invented yet. and
which one is it?
I think that the next one will probably come from Brazil.
We hope so.
The best game in the world will come from Brazil. Maybe. And I think that there's some things happening in virtual reality that will become important in the next 5 years. And see, the game business resets itself about every 3 to 4 years. And all the big players before very often are not the big players of the new wave. And, for example, Electronic Arts really controlled the world before the online world really got important. And then all of a sudden, things shift to Worlds of Warcraft and Activision. Then Activision, all of a sudden, passed EA like it was standing still because it was a different wave. The next wave, I think, will be virtual reality and perhaps augmented reality. I don't see that that's either going to be EA or Activision. It'll be somebody new.
Well, some people are radical and they criticize games and they think it alienates. You understand this word?
Yeah.
But you are a defensor of games for education, right?
Right.
What can you say to these radical people?
Well, I think that bad people will always do bad things, and since they were not the first time, they're not the first people to do bad things. They copied other things, and they're bad people. And in the Old West, they copied other gunslingers and other bandits. They say, they're bad like those other bandits and the stagecoach robbers and all that. Movies, television, there's violence in all those.
Right.
Games, they're violent. Some of them. But the reality is that people have freedom to do what they wish, and sometimes they choose bad things. And the challenge is, you ask anyone who is criticizing video games, do you play video games yourself? and they never do. The people who are most critical of video games, they're not players. And the reality is that kids who play video games end up with better brains, they're smarter than kids who aren't. In fact, countries that have restricted video game play, and there have been several of them, have found themselves way behind when it came to IT knowledge and programming talent.
Really?
Because video games are the training wheels for computer literacy. There has never been a computer programmer that didn't start out playing video games. Not one.
Okay.
And so if you keep people from playing video games, it's like killing the next generation in their crib.
No próximo bloco, Nolan Bushnell fala do duro golpe que quase acabou com o Atari. Lembra de vários jogos famosos e revela quais são os seus preferidos. O Globo News Ciência e Tecnologia volta em instantes. Atari é jogo, diversão, mas também pode ser educação. O conhecimento acumulado ao longo dos anos à frente da indústria dos games deu a Bushnell a vontade de seguir trabalhando para o público jovem.
It turns out that games are very powerful, the game metrics, and I can actually make games somewhat addictive. I want to make education and learning as addictive as video games, and I'm doing it. Right now, my software will teach 10 times faster than a classroom. We're in front of 100,000 kids. We're teaching Spanish vocabulary. Kids who use our software end up knowing 10 times more words and phrases than kids who don't.
So, is that any experience, or it's already a fact?
It's a fact.
You're already
it's done. And this summer, I'll be expanding it to other languages, chemistry, physics, biology, mathematics, history, geography, and it will be, I think, a major phenomenon. And we're doing it in such a way that's a little bit like Wikipedia, so that we provide the engines for teachers worldwide. Portugal, and Portuguese for Brazil, Spanish, Italian, French, and we'll bring these all together into this global conspiracy to teach kids faster. And I think you will be able to teach 4 years of primary school in 6 months.
And is that your something that you create, this game? And is that a relation with government, NGO, or where are you applying this, enforcing this?
It's real simple. All our games are free.
Okay. So,
so
we can get it in Brazil?
Absolutely. And the teachers can use our engines, and they can put their lessons and what have you, and all of a sudden, every teacher that uses our lessons will be 10 times better than the teacher who doesn't.
Wow.
Okay?
It's already proved?
Yeah, it's already proved. And what I want is for then that teacher who now has the kids so that the base stuff is understood, they can spend more time in language, working more on grammar and syntax and what? In physics. They can talk more about creating new ideas. The next big wave of competition is actually creativity and innovation. And so I want the kids to start working on projects. Instead of all this time sitting still, working on memorizing stuff, let's give them building things, making projects. Get the Maker Faire to Brazil. Most important thing that's happening in the United States right now, in my estimation.
O criador da Atari elogia a maneira como os gigantes da tecnologia lidam com seus colaboradores. Para ele, a maneira como você trabalha tem impacto direto em seus produtos. Se você é um funcionário feliz e respeitado, seu produto terá um pouco dessas características.
Atari actually started that trend. We said you don't have to come to work at all. You don't have to wear anything. Before that, everybody had to wear a coat and tie. If you were an engineer, you had a white shirt and a tie on. And I said, Atari started the very first one. Said, come to work anywhere you want to, or don't even come to work. Just get your job done.
That's the way you deal with Steve Jobs?
Yeah, just get your job done. And Steve was a very hard worker, and I'd come in sometime, and he'd be asleep under his desk on a futon. What people don't realize about Steve Jobs is how hard he worked. He was driven. And, Bill Gates, too. In the early days of Microsoft, Bill Gates used to sleep under his desk all the time.
And he worked very hard as well.
Yeah, but see, we don't feel like it's working hard. We feel like we want to get this done. We want to get it done faster.
At Atari, we take our games seriously, so you have more fun.
How'd you do, Kareem?
Glad I won't face Atari in the playoffs.
Mas a época do idealismo passou e depois do sucesso mundial, a crise se abateu sobre a Atari. O império que dominou os games um dia começou a ruir por conta de problemas financeiros.
I sold the company in 76, and I stayed on for 2 years. Warner, who was the big thing, they didn't understand what the business was. They made every mistake in the world. Like I say, and they were the biggest, and so when they basically screwed things up, the business really had a great big hiccup. The industry didn't have homicide, it was suicide. They basically did it to themselves. And then they didn't rekindle in that. They sort of sold it off, and you know, they did like they dealt with it like a big company, and a lot of people don't realize that many times big companies are just a collection of idiots. You know, that just because they're big doesn't mean they're smart.
Right.
And they made every mistake you could imagine.
We think like Kodak, it's another example.
Yeah. Just it was really sad because what happened is they basically ceded the business to Japan by not understanding what the problem was. And now Atari, after that, was sold, and then it sold to the French, and they put on way too much debt. And just last month, Atari filed for bankruptcy to restructure their debt to get away from the French company and come. I think Atari is going to be an important player in the future.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is there a hope?
I think so.
Yeah.
The brand's too strong.
Perfect. So I think I have a final question here, which is very personal. Do you still play games? I mean,
yes, I do.
Which games you are your favorites?
Right now, I'm playing a game called Portal, and I'm also playing Minecraft. Minecraft is a funny game. It was done by one guy in Sweden, and it's made $100 million. You know, that's really a good return on investment. Anyway, but I still like to play Go. I still, I play a lot of games. It's important to keep up with the marketplace.
What about Atari? You still play it?
Oh yeah, I play them.
Really?
All. They're on my all on my phone. Really? You know, in fact, we've got some really great games on the iPhone, on the Android.
Oh, really?
We've repurposed them, and we're going to continue to repurpose them. I'm doing a little work with Atari now, and we'll fix it.
And what's your favorite game of all times?
Impossible for me to say, because I can probably tell you 10, but I can't tell you one, because they're for different things. I mean, I love The Sims. I love Tetris. I loved Doom. I loved Pong. I loved Tempest. I really like Portal right now. I really think that Warcraft was a wonderful game. You know, and each one of them were sort of a stage on life's way.
All of them are very close to your heart.
Yes, very much.